Alright, ladies and gentlemen, Baron here. So today is the fifth and final day of the Steel Generals preview, where we get to see 5 different pieces of American armor that are going to be coming out in patch 1.45. The first day we saw the M2 medium tank. The second day we saw the M16 half-track with its quad 50 caliber machine guns, which are going to rip apart planes. The third day we saw the M4A1 76 Sherman tank. Yesterday we saw the M41 Walker Bulldog, and today what you're looking at right now is likely to be the biggest and heaviest of all of the American heavy tanks and tanks in general we're gonna see in the game, the M103 heavy tank. This is probably gonna be the tier 5 American heavy tank. Now what's interesting about the M103 heavy tank was it actually is a conversion from an earlier tank that was produced in 1953, the T-43E1. The M103 is actually a conversion from that, of which happened in 1957, where around 74 were converted. Now this beast has a 120mm main gun, 100 to 130mm of frontal hull armor, 180mm of frontal turret armor, and 250mm of armor in the gun mantlet. So shooting at this thing from the front is going to be an interesting, albeit futile effort. It's an absolute beast. Now, what I think is interesting is that let's talk about American heavy tanks in general. I think that we know about the M26 Pershing, which you can see here, and then maybe to a lesser extent about the Patton tanks. Now, there were 3 different types of Patton tanks. The M46, which was produced in small numbers and not used by the United States. Then there was the M47, and finally you can see right here the M48 Patton, which was actually pretty different from the M47 Patton. And the biggest distinction, I think, superficially, is when looking at it, is that rounded turret. Now, both the M47 and M48 are armed with 90mm guns. The M48 didn't have a hull-mounted machine gun, and as a result had a smaller crew. And while that's all well and good, we're pretty much familiar with the M26 and M46, M47, M48 Patton and Pershing tanks. But I think what's kind of cool are some lesser known tanks. Now first, I'm going to be talking about basically what kind of led up to, what were some of those tanks that were going to be produced and were produced in small numbers, but basically production stopped as a result of the stop of World War II. And the T-29 heavy tank and the T-34 heavy tanks, you can see here, this is the T-29, 105mm gun, and it was basically the predecessor to the M103. Small orders were produced, and it could have gone into production had it not been for the end of World War II. Now here's one I think is really cool, because Gaijin's basically like, hey guys, check this one out. This is the M6 heavy tank. And what I think is very fascinating about this tank is it's got a 76.2mm main gun, and then right next to it, it has a 37mm gun, which is mounted coaxially. And I think that is just the coolest thing. Like, how unique of a tank is that? For, it's not multi-turreted, but it's definitely multi-gunned. Now we're gonna get to see that in M3 Lee. And if the Brits get the M3 Grant. But here, the M6, 2 pretty sizable guns. So it's going to be interesting if you fire them independently, the different situations in which you use your high velocity, heavy hitting 76 and then your 37mm gun. This thing's pretty slow and pretty heavy armored, and I would imagine it's definitely one of the earliest American heavy tanks as far as the tech tree is concerned. Anyway, so out of all of these days and out of all these tanks, actually I wanted to ask you all to help identify every tank in this video clip. But basically, we've got a lot of American armor to look forward to. I think my favorite that I'm looking forward to the most is the M42 Duster, which is actually the anti-aircraft modification of the M41 Walker Bulldog. And I'm thinking the Sherman Firefly, actually, because I think it'll be kind of, mid to lower tier tank with some pretty good hitting power. And yeah, it's a British tank, but I want to see it as a premium, because we're probably gonna have to wait a long time to see British tanks, Japanese tanks, Maybe French tanks, who knows? Maybe smaller tech trees like the Italians under the Germans, who knows? I don't know. I'd like to see all that kind of stuff. But anyway, let me know your favorite American armor that you're looking forward to playing the most and why, and help identify all of the American armor seen in that video clip. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Baron. I thank y'all for watching. Make sure to pull the trigger on that like button, and I will see you soon.